Almost 50% of everything you do are habits, starting from the time you wake up to how you brush your teeth to what you eat on breakfast. We humans, by our nature, are creatures of habits because your brain always looks for shortcuts, and then these shortcuts slowly turn into habits, which means if you develop bad habits, your life will slowly turn into a miserable, mediocre life. And over time, that will seem normal to you. But that also means that if you can develop the right habits, you can turn your life into a more productive, successful, and happier life. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here, we talk about investing, the stock market, and productivity. So if you want to learn how to invest and be aware of what's happening in the world of finance, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell button. Today, we're going to talk about the habits that are literally destroying your life and making you miserable. You can't be building wealth while your life is mediocre. So if you want to make this year far better than last year, get rid of these 5 habits that are stopping you from getting rich and achieving your goals. Number 1. Not thinking long term. When we see a successful person, we tend to think that they might be smart, talented, or just pure genius. Of course, that's true to a certain extent. However, multiple studies have shown that the number one reason that sets successful people apart from the rest is the ability to delay gratification. It's when you resist the temptation of an immediate smaller reward in order to receive a more substantial reward later. It's when you stop scrolling your Instagram feed and get back to work, or stop watching this YouTube video and start getting ready for tomorrow's test, or hit the gym at night instead of going to a party. The research shows that being able to delay gratification is a great habit. It also leads to academic success, physical health, psychological health, and social competence. That doesn't mean you should completely ignore the present and just focus on the future. Being able to live in the present all the time is another great habit that you should be building if you want to be successful in the traditional meaning. Take successful athletes, for example, on the pitch. They play around with the ball as if they have been born to become athletes. However, behind the scenes, they probably have been training for the last 10 or 15 years just to perform that trick better than everyone else on the pitch. So to become a successful athlete, you can't be expecting to be rewarded right after each training session. You have to understand that you might need to work super hard for years to achieve any meaningful progress. Number 2. Arguing with dumb people. We all have been into many arguments, and many of them didn't end well. You either lose the argument or lose the relationship if you end up winning. You're basically losing something anyway. First of all, everyone can have an opinion, and everyone is free to stick to what they believe, and wasting hours and hours to convince someone who doesn't want to be convinced is a waste of time. Especially when that person believes with his heart and soul that he has the only truth. There is no way he could possibly be wrong. Mark Twain once said, "Never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience." This is one of the most important things I have ever learned. If you argue with someone about something that the other person is ignorant about, but still wants to prove that he's right, then what's the point of the argument? In my experience, it's just better to ignore those kind of arguments at all. You don't have to waste your time and energy on those kind of people. Bernard Shaw once said, "I learned long ago never to wrestle with the pig. You get dirty, and besides, the pig likes it." Number 3. Wasting too much time on social media. Did you know that an average person uses at least 2 hours every single day browsing his newsfeed on social media? That might not sound like a big number, but it adds up to over 5 years over a lifetime. That's enough to be a world-class expert at 5 different things if you spend 10,000 hours mastering each of them. But that's just the tip of an iceberg, because when it comes to kids and teenagers, they spend up to 8 hours of their day on this thing called social media. And this number is only getting higher and higher, and in a matter of years, you might find yourself spending as much time on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as you spend on sleeping. Ridiculous! But how on earth did we end up like this? Just last year, Facebook made over $78 billion in revenue. To put that number into perspective, that's twice bigger than the entire budget of Ukraine, which is the largest country in Europe. And the big chunk of that amount Facebook spends on figuring out how to make their platform as addictive as possible. Besides them, you have YouTube, Snapchat, and other social media companies trying to do the exact same thing. Because the longer you stay on their platform, the more money they are going to make. It's that simple. Unfortunately, they have figured out a way to manipulate us. There is a little chemical in your brain that's known as dopamine. It constantly searches for a reward because every time it gets it, it spikes and makes you feel good. That's why you constantly check your phone every time it buzzes. When someone likes or comments on your picture, or God forbid follows you, your dopamine surges. And when your brain knows that it can get an easy dopamine spike, it will constantly push you to check your Instagram even when your phone doesn't even buzzes. And that's known as phantom vibration syndrome. I guess it's impossible to completely stop using social media today because you have to somehow keep in touch with friends, colleagues, and relatives. But don't make it into a habit because it will slowly ruin your life. Number 4. Sitting. Regardless of who you are or where you are, you definitely sit a lot. And that's normal in today's world. Think about it. When you wake up, the first thing that you do is sit down and have breakfast. Then you get into your car or a bus to sit and get to your workplace. And once you're there, you're probably going to sit for hours to do your job. And when you get back home, you will sit again to relax and watch something. You might not see anything wrong with that, but our bodies weren't built to sit all the time, but rather were built to move. That's why sitting is very unhealthy. I know that the idea that sitting can be harmful seems insane at first thought because sitting is our default posture when we work, study, socialize, or travel. However, studies after studies have proven that it's one of those things that is slowly killing you from inside. When you sit down, your blood flow significantly slows down, and it creates pressure and makes it difficult for your heart to pump blood. In fact, studies have shown that sitting more than 10 hours a day can lead you to develop heart diseases, diabetes, or cancer. For instance, if you stand up and move every 15 minutes, you're going to live significantly longer than someone who would move every half an hour. When you're sitting, you slow down your blood flow and limit the amount of oxygen getting into your bloodstream, which eventually slows down your brain. In other words, sitting down to focus is a bad idea, which sounds insane as well. And we did not even talk about all the possible back problems. So, what should you do? Move. Number 5. Comparing yourself to others. Do you sometimes feel like you're falling behind, as if everyone is doing something important and achieving great stuff? Well, you're not. I mean, some people are already planning to visit the Mars while you can't even find a job. People out there changing the world, making billions of dollars, while you can't even figure out what you want to do with your life. Even if you put aside those who are much elder than you and argue that you still got time to achieve what they have achieved, you still can find a lot of people at your age who have achieved the level of success that you can only dream about. It completely destroys your self-esteem. And that's the problem. You don't understand that your life is yours and it's different from any other life that has ever existed. You can't compare your life to anyone else, even to the people who are around you, who are doing the exact same thing that you are doing, who are influenced by the same factors that you are influenced. At the end of the day, you are a completely different identity with a different mindset, strength, weaknesses than anyone else. Our school system has made us think that we all should move in the same direction at the same speed. We all start school around the same age, we move from one grade to another at the same time, and then get into college. This process has shaped our idea of life that we're all identical with similar passions, goals, opportunities, and so on, when in reality, we are not. Life doesn't provide you with a fixed timeline, but rather it's very unpredictable and spontaneous. If one has achieved something at a certain age, doesn't make it necessary for others to achieve the same thing. Some people achieve financial success at an early age, while others create a loving family at that time. And this is something that you have to accept. Your life is your journey that you're going to create, and that's going to be different from everyone else. So stop comparing yourself. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up And if you're new around here, then make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications. Thanks for watching, and until next time.